will be coming to New Orleans over the next several days for the Essence Music Festival for a variety of panels and sessions. Black Girl Magic will be in full force. But the question we're about to deal with now is how America also views black girls. It is a stunning study that lays out some disturbing information in terms of how black girls are being treated in this country. Now, we know in the history of America, black women have always been dismissed, always been mistreated. So this particular report is called Girlhood Interrupted, the Erasure of Black Girls' Childhood. Of course, a comprehensive study, yet the most comprehensive yet, about how African-American girls are perceived and treated. And again, disturbing findings. According to this report, in the areas of education and the juvenile justice system, black girls are viewed negatively and are subject to more punishment by those in position of authority than white girls. The study finds that adults perceive black girls as needing less nurturing, less protection, less support, and less comfort. Yes, black girls are also perceived as being more independent, knowing more about adult topics, and knowing more about sex. Joining us now, the report's co-authors via Skype from College Station, Texas, Dr. Jamila Blake, Associate Professor of Educational Psychology at Texas A&M University, my alma mater. Whoop! Also in our D.C. studio, Thalia Gonzalez, Associate Professor of Politics at Occidental College. And so it is stunning to think of this report. And you see these perceptions of black girls. And for adults to say, Jamila, that, oh, these black girls, they know more about sex than white girls in these other areas, it shows you this contrast. What is driving this? Where are folks getting these perceptions and views of black girls from?
That's an excellent question. And so where I think they're getting from is the pervasive stereotype of black women. We have this negative stereotype of black women that goes across the media, that's embedded in our history. And I don't even think people are aware. It's implicit. It's an implicit bias that black women are aggressive and they're defiant and they're hypersexualized, right? So these stereotypes, as I've said many times before, are pouring down, unfortunately, on black girls. And I don't even know if adults are even cognizant of the impact or how these stereotypes impact the way they see black girls.
Thalia?
Absolutely. I have to echo what my colleague said. I mean, we're seeing stereotypes that are filtering not just into schools, but then what that means into the juvenile justice system. So moving girls swiftly from the school, from the playground, all the way into the juvenile justice system. And then at every stage in the juvenile justice system, they're being treated more harshly. So being perceived in ways that are more adult-like, less innocent, and needing less nurturing and protection, which is impacting both educational opportunities and just access to the very protections and justice that are designed for children.
Jamila, I'm going to go back to you again. When I talk about what we see, one of the reasons why I utterly despise reality television is because of how black women are being portrayed. In fact, I was supposed to do a session at the American Black Film Festival with the creator of a lot of these reality shows, and I absolutely refuse to do anything with her because, again, because of what these shows represent. Now, I'm not putting everything on music or on movies, but the reality is, if you have folks in this country who are largely white, who have no interaction with black people, then they're going to get, or in some places where black people don't even exist, they're getting their views of black girls from somewhere. And then, of course, what's driving that impacts then public policy, impact what happens on jobs as well, in college, you name it. So what people think about black girls can impact them as they become teenagers, young women, and adult women.
Yes, absolutely. And, not to just blame the media, again, because this is a societal stereotype and it permeates all of our systems, right? But, it's not only just the visual images, but also just how we're described in text, stereotypes, right, in the press and the language that's used. There's actually a rich history in social psychology and linguistics that talks about how minority groups are depicted, how they're written about, the adjectives that are used to describe Black women, Black girls, relative to the adjectives that are used to describe white women and girls. And those things implicitly sink in, and it impacts the way we see the world. So, and it also has long-term impacts, right? So if you're seeing Black girls as being older, right, and then you're treating them more harshly, they start to internalize those messages, right? So 5 years old and I make a mistake or I talk back and you're automatically on autopilot to see me as being aggressive instead of assertive, right? Then what happens is I stop raising my hand. I start to think, well, maybe I am doing something bad. And that internalization can do two different things. It can make me withdraw, right? So I'm not interacting, or it can make me become overcompensate, right? And then start to engage in what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy, where I start engaging in behavior that perpetuates the stereotype. So I think there are lasting implications of the way adults view children and this implicit bias that we've identified.
Cleo Manago, want to get your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think we should also mention that Black males are seen very similarly. More sexually active, etc., seen as bigger than they really are, and attacked based on the appearance of being allegedly bigger than they really are. But this discussion has been contextualized as how adults see girls. Are these adults everybody? I mean, because what I'm concerned about is what we internalize as Black people and how we replicate white supremacy and destroy each other with that kind of lens.
Thalia?
So this study was a 325 adults surveyed across the country from a range of backgrounds, both racially, socioeconomically. So we do see that even though it's a smaller study, it is reflective of the possibility of what it might mean to see that replication of those racial stereotypes, in particular across a range of communities. And I think that's what's so critical about the call to action to make policy change. This isn't just simply about an individual changing their perceptions, but we have to think about the public systems, right? So this is about our educational system, this is about our child welfare system, this is about our juvenile justice system, and what they all mean is they come in contact, people with authority, as they come in contact with Black girls and how they're being treated differently and perceived in these unique ways.
So some of these people doing this are Black people.
Absolutely. Some of these people that are doing this are Black people, these are women, right? These are men.
Kim?
Yes. I think everyone here is making great points. I think stereotypically Black women are seen as aggressive and angry, and that comes across on TV and in movies all the time. I also work with young Black girls, ages 12 to 17, and I have to say also we have to look at too what goes on at home, and I think this might be why Black women think this as well. Is I talk to a lot of young Black girls, and instead of being at home watching Peppa Pig or Sesame Street, sometimes they're watching what their mother's watching, which could be Scandal or just YouTube showing these things that's making them seem more adult at a young age, and we have to also take responsibility for that.
Ray Baker.
So I want to push back a little bit at what Kim says about taking responsibility for that, because what this study is focusing on is how adults who we assume to be fully formed and mature and able to intellectually reason all these complex ideas, how they are engaging young people. Even if you want to engage and appreciate the sexism and patriarchy that we saw come out when Donald Trump was caught on tape saying he sexually assaults women, and all of these men come out and say, as a father, as a husband, I disown this, that, and the third, because an adult woman was sexually assaulted. Those same folks were quiet when we saw, just as your B-roll played, the video of a 14-year-old girl assaulted by police. And so even the idea of the sexism and patriarchy that we must protect our women doesn't even extend in the United States. And unfortunately and sadly, I think it points back to what Cleo talks to, this idea of white supremacy, where the Black girls don't even deserve to be protected.
Final thoughts, Thalia first, then Jamila.
Well, I think what we have to remember is that we are dealing with girls, right? We're dealing with youth, and we have to protect and invest in our children. And so if we don't do that, we're losing a whole generation. So the time to act now, right? This is not just about recognizing that this is an issue, but it's about taking action, and it's about making changes in all of these key systems where girls are coming in contact with adult authority.
Jamila?
what I want us to leave with is that we need to do more research in these areas, and we need to develop trainings for the individuals who are interacting with these adults so they can be aware of this bias and we can alter it so that Black girls are not negatively impacted by this idea of adultification.
Jamila Blake, Texas A&M University, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Thalia Gonzalez, Occidental College, thank you so very much for joining us as well.
Thank you.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
News One Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.
Black girls are perceived as less innocent than white girls starting at age 5 by Natalie J-Swiss. Researchers and advocates have noted for years that Black Americans face a higher risk of imprisonment than white Americans and constitute almost 1 million of the 2.3 million people incarcerated in the United States. One reason for the disparity may be racial bias. Now, a study from Georgetown Law's Center on Poverty and Inequality reveals Black girls may face such a bias while still in kindergarten. According to the findings, Black girls are perceived as less innocent than white girls as early as age 5. These are preschool girls who are being viewed as needing less protection and needing less nurturing than their white counterparts, says Rebecca Epstein, lead author and executive director of the Center on Poverty and Inequality at the Georgetown University Law Center. At that age, I find it shocking. The most recent findings build on past studies that surveyed respondents' perception of Black boys. Though viewed similarly to their white peers through the age of 9, Black boys 10 and older are viewed as less innocent than white boys their age. In this case, innocence is used as a proxy for children's lack of worldliness and need for protection. People are also likely to believe Black boys are older than they are. When shown pictures of Black, white, and Latino boys alongside descriptions of felonies, study participants overestimated Black boys' ages by the average of 4.5 years. The type of guess that would render a 13-and-a-half-year-old as a legal adult. This effect was unique to Black boys, people guessed Latino and white boys' ages with similar accuracy. Black girls also face prejudice. In one study of a predominantly Black and Latino public school, Black girls frequently called out answers in class, performed well academically, and were disproportionately well represented in AP classes. But although Black girls' participation may have propelled their academic success, teachers, including those who were Black women, tended to scold Black girls more frequently when they called out than when Black boys called out, or when girls of other races called out. Black girls called out more overall, but were also chastened at a higher rate than other kids who called out. So if you were a kid who called out, you were more likely to be scolded if you were a Black girl. Rather than viewing Black girls' participation as evidence of engagement, teachers focused on how the shouted answers were indecorous and unladylike. The Georgetown Law Study is the first to focus on how people perceive Black girls' innocence and maturity relative to white girls. The researchers surveyed 325 adults. 74% were white, about the maturity of either white or Black girls. Survey respondents considered questions like how often Black or white females seem older than their age, how much they need to be comforted, how much they know about sex. They separately assessed girls in age groups ranging from 0 to 19. The study found that Black girls are viewed as more mature and less innocent than their white peers at even earlier age than Black boys, beginning at age 5, with most pronounced difference between ages 5 and 14. Viewing children as more mature because of social stereotypes is called adultification. The adultification of Black girls may reflect social stereotypes about Black women, says co-author Jamila Blake of Texas A&M University. It's the stereotype of black women as being loud, aggressive, and over-sexualized, says Blake. You can trace these stereotypes all the way back to slavery. She adds that adults may not even realize the way stereotypes influence their views. The authors say the belief that black girls are more mature could be harmful, both in school and in the criminal justice system. Consciously or subconsciously, educators and legal authorities may view black girls as more culpable for their actions, therefore be more inclined to punish them severely. These prejudices, for example, could explain why black girls are 5 times more likely to be suspended than white girls. They're also more likely to be suspended more than white boys. The researchers say they have no intention of leaving the topic behind. Epstein calls the study a call to action for more research, as well as for developing training to make adults aware of their biases and address them. We encourage black girls to raise their voices about the issue, and of course, for adults to listen to them. All black girls are entitled to and deserve equal treatment, including the protections that are appropriate for children. This is really interesting. This goes back to something I've been looking at lately on the myth of white womanhood. And it's been a complaint of black women or black women, well, basically going back to I think the 30s. It's been talked about in feminist circles about the difference in how black females are seen as compared to white females. And the complaint that whereas white females are seen as ladylike and feminine and all those things, black females are seen as sort of like failed males. In other words, they were brought over here to be slaves. They were brought over to be breeders, but they weren't physically adequate enough for the labor force that was intended for black people to do. In other words, the actual prize, which is interesting, the actual prize, physical prize, was black males. Black females, for the most part, even especially before 1780 or so, black females really weren't imported to the New World. I think it was like almost 90% of all slaves coming into the New World were male, and black females were rare, or not rare, but they weren't as numerous. So black male labor was always the prize coming into the United States. So that feeling or that attitude has probably carried over. And also when we look at black males and black females, black males as far as being oppressed is probably a little bit more because black males are seen as more dangerous and black females less so, even though a lot of that stereotype and that prejudice does fall on black females, not as much so, but they don't get the same protection that white females do. So when they compare racism, they never compare black females to white males. They compare black females to white males, which is something interesting. It might be something I might have to explore on this channel a little later. For this particular video, I don't think I can get into it because I wasn't prepared for it. It would take a little bit more doing. I might revisit this. Because it's a interesting topic. It's an interesting topic about the myth of white womanhood. Some angst that black female intellectuals have pondered over for, I would say, the better part of 70 years. That Miss Anne effect, so to speak, where black women were the servants and the laborers of the household, and even the concubine of the master, but never the lady of the house. Interesting topic, grounds for further research. With that, ladies, I'm going to jet off of here. Till the next time, BGS out.